Hi, this is Allison Sheridan, and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. Back in July of 2015, I demonstrated for you iStat menus from Bjango. And more recently, Mike Schmitz briefly showed iStat menus as part of his setup tutorial. iStat menus was recently updated to version 6 with some terrific new capability. I don't want to repeat everything we learned about the interface in the previous tutorial, so I'll be concentrating on all of the new features. We're also going to take a look at an application for the iPhone and for the Mac called iStat View and its companion app called iStat Server. These apps work together to allow you to monitor the Macs on your network from your iPhone or from your Mac.